If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, where the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, oh, from sea to shining sea. From Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, oh, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'd rather stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless this country. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
God bless the USA, and God bless all of us. Folks, I brought back God bless the USA. Here's what happened. I've been getting copyright notices every day from YouTube because my opening for the game streams has been using the first 45 seconds or so, not even that really, of Thus Spake Zarathustra, also known as the theme from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I keep getting these copyright notices, but the thing is, they're not strikes. It's just a notice that says, hey, these guys put a copyright claim on this. This isn't a strike, but you can't monetize this video. Now, we know that you're not monetizing it because you're no longer part of the partner program, but just so you know. And we might put ads on your thing anyway. And I finally realized, well, what the hell? That's all I was getting with God Bless the USA too, was copyright notices, not copyright strikes. At least not lately. Let me look right now. Let me see. Right now. Now, actually, I've got it right here. Hang on a second. Let's see. No, haven't. Oh wait, let me update it. Let me update it. I just realized I hadn't refreshed the page yet. I haven't got one yet. I did get one from this morning, though. Yeah, hey, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Also, with that in mind, I'm seriously considering to stop streaming on YouTube altogether, both in the morning and for the news rodeo. I realize it doesn't seem to be working where I'm getting people from YouTube onto DLive and Trovo. It just doesn't seem to be working, and that's the only reason I do it. There is some extra effort involved in making the show available for an extra platform. It's not just a matter of clicking a switch and off it goes. It does take some effort, and I'm thinking that maybe that is effort that is misplaced. So I'm willing to take suggestions. I talked with Twin Crier about it this morning during the game stream, and Twin Crier was all for blowing off YouTube. So, folks, the suggestion box is open, and I'm interested to see what everyone thinks. And I would like to welcome Steely Dan to the Trovo chat, folks. This is the I do get a copyright notification on Lee Greenwood Dog, but I don't think I get a strike. I don't think I got a strike. The only strike I've gotten so far has been for the Trump election comments. Those are the only active strikes that I have. But anyway, and I would like to point out that for the very first time ever, there are more people in the Trovo chat than there are in the DLive chat. That has never, ever happened before. So let's give Trovo a big round of applause. Big round of applause. Skullcram says YouTube is taking everyone off anyhow. Yeah, and my traffic has just plummeted even worse than it was before. So there's another reasoning for that. Okay. JF says in the DLive chat, 6 cargo ships lose control in the Gulf of Oman, according to the Times of Israel. I will look that up. Twin Choir also mentions all the ads on YouTube. That is a very good point. Okay, well, let me look that story up real quickly, because I've got other breaking news that I want to get to before we get to the Babylon B. Okay, I can't spell. Cargo ships lose control. Times of Israel. I've got 4 here. It says Times of Israel. It says 4 ships lost control after days after vessel attacked by drones. All right, we'll get to that. Okay, so last thing. This is going to be a loosey-goosey show. I think I'm going to start calling them sweeps, because all I do is I just sweep into the various outlets and grab stories and then move on. That's a term that just came to me a few minutes ago. I got absolutely 0 minutes of sleep last night. 0 nunca zip bumpkus. I completely wrapped myself around the axle yesterday, trying to mod Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. It seemed like a simple process, and I completely blew it up, and it took me literally 5 hours to straighten it out. And by the time I was done, I'd missed my bedtime, and I was a wreck. So I'm going to try and hold on for as long as I can today, but I can't guarantee it'll be all that long, just so you know. All right, so let us get to the show. Let me bring this up here. So first off is a story that I got thanks to Electric Dog. He posted this in the chat as I was getting ready to go live on DLive. There was a officer fatality at a metro station outside of the Pentagon this afternoon in Washington. Okay, that was redundant. How many Pentagons do we have? The details are pretty sketchy right now. All we know is that it happened on a metro bus platform that's part of the Pentagon Transit Center, and it was just a few steps away from the Pentagon. There seems to have been a Pentagon police officer who was attacked by a suspect with a knife, and he was stabbed to death. And then the attacker was shot and died at the scene. That's all we know right now. We don't have any motive. We don't have any names. So that is a breaking story. And just for context, the article mentions at the bottom, in 2010, 2 officers with the Pentagon Force Protection Agency were wounded when a gunman approached them at a security screening area. The officers who survived returned fire, fatally wounding the gunman, identified as John Patrick Bedell. Okay, so that's all we have right now. We'll keep an. If any of you see any updates on that, please let me know. Okay, so the story provided to us. Oh, let me catch up with the deal. Pardon me, the Trovo chat. Steely Dan says, "I just heard England is going to start putting graphene oxide in their water systems, and soon to come to the States." I don't know anything about that. I'll keep an eye out for that, Steely Dan. It's just I chuckled, and my reaction was a smile and a chuckle because I watch the Tim Pool Timcast IRL podcasts every night, every Monday through Friday, and one of his co-hosts, Ian Crossland, is big into graphene. It was graphene and breaking up the Fed are two of his major talking points. And I know nothing about graphene except what I've heard Ian talk about. And it sounds like an incredible thing. But what it would do to the water, I got no clue. But I will certainly keep an eye out for that. So thank you, Steely Dan. I appreciate it. All right, so story provided to us by JF. This has been updated now. It said 4 times on the link in DuckDuckGo. Now the headline says 6. Ships in Gulf of Oman lose control days after vessel attacked by drones. Reports that Iranian-backed forces may have seized Asphalt Princess's tanker. British military calls it a potential hijack. Okay, let's see here. This is Dateline Dubai. At least 6 ships off the coast of the UAE broadcast warnings Tuesday that they had lost control of their steering under unclear circumstances as British authorities reported, quote, a potential hijack, unquote, was underway in the area. According to Reuters, which quoted 2 security maritime sources, Iranian-backed forces were believed to have seized one of the tankers. Shipping authorities Lloyd's List and maritime intelligence firm Dryad Global both identified the vessel involved as Panama-flagged asphalt tanker Asphalt Princess. I didn't even know there was such a thing as an asphalt tanker. The vessel's owner, listed as Emirati Free Zone-based Glory International, could not immediately be reached for comment. The 6 vessels announced around the same time via their automatic identification system trackers that they were, quote, not under command, according to marinetraffic.com. That typically means a vessel has lost power and can no longer steer. Quoting, at the same time, if they are in the same vicinity and in the same place, then very rarely that happens, said Rajinth Raja, an oil and shipping expert with data firm Refinitiv. Not, quoting again, not all the vessels would lose their engines or their capability to steer at the same time. And it also says one of the vessels later began moving. Let's see. So, potential hijack, according to the British. The event comes just days after a drone struck an oil tanker linked to an Israeli billionaire off the coast of Oman, killing 2 crew members. The West blamed Iran for the attack, which marked the first known assault to have killed civilians in the years-long shadow war targeting commercial vessels in the region. Iran denied playing any role in the incident, though Tehran and its allied militias have used similar, quote, suicide drone attacks previously. Israel, the U.S., and the U.K. vowed a, quote, collective response to the attack without elaborating. All right, so things are getting hot and heavy in the Gulf of Oman. Now, this is speculation on my part. I am not a shipping expert, but a concentrated RF emitter could block those steering systems. It's kind of an active EMP. So that is a possibility. Again, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm certainly not pointing any fingers. But for all of them to lose steering capability at pretty much the same time in the same area, to me, points to a localized attack with some type of an RF emitter. But I have no way to back that up. I'm just saying. All right, moving right along. Let's get to the Babylon Bee. Let me make sure it's fresh. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. Perfectly timed. Perfectly timed. This is from their health section. Experts warn of new Cuomo variant that is dangerous to young women, fatal to elderly. And here we have a picture of a group of medical professionals in a meeting room looking at a monitor with a picture of a typical angry and out of control Governor Cuomo. And it is labeled Cuomo variant, most infectious variant to date, 100% fatal for seniors in nursing homes. All right, Dateline US. Epidemiologists are sounding the alarm about a new COVID variant that is leading to increased hospitalization rates across the country. According to scientists, this new mutation, dubbed the Cuomo variant, is particularly dangerous to young, attractive women and 100% fatal to the elderly. Quote, "This is the most infectious and also the grossest variant yet," close quote, said Dr. Maria Belagamba to reporters, again quoting, "It seriously creeps me out just thinking about it. If this variant doesn't make you want to isolate yourself in a locked home immediately, I don't know what will," close quote. According to virologists, young attractive women should avoid wearing short skirts and low-cut tops, as the Cuomo variant seems to gravitate towards women who it deems are provocatively dressed. Quote, "If you find yourself smelling nothing but the scent of garlic and marinara sauce combined with profuse amounts of cheap cologne, this is a sure sign you've been infected," said Belagamba before barfing into a nearby trash can from sheer disgust. In addition to being a very pervy virus, experts say it is 100% guaranteed to murder everyone over 65. Quoting Belagamba for the last time, "Sorry, there's nothing we can do at this point. The virus donated to Biden's election campaign." Oh. Of course, this on the heels of New York State Attorney General Letitia James coming out with her report that said that Biden is a serial sexual harasser. He has made a living basically off of harassing young female staffers and creating also an incredibly hostile and I believe the quote toxic workplace environment that came out this morning. Excuse me. And Babylon Bee, of course, all over it. Hey, good afternoon, Ray. Good afternoon. All right, moving right along. So, let's update our look at the market here. And fascinatingly, the market actually closed in close to record territory today. The Dow Jones was up a full 0.8%, closing at 35,116 and change. Again, close to record territory. The market saw a pretty sharp dip this morning, all the way down to 34,700 and change, before making a pretty big turnaround and slow and steady climb for the rest of the day. The S&P 500 was up a similar amount. The NASDAQ up 0.55%, closing at 14,761 and change. Gold slipped slightly, still above 1,800 an ounce, though. Crude oil also slipped slightly, below $71 a barrel, currently at $70.59 per barrel of West Texas Intermediate Sweet crude. And Bitcoin is seeing a bit of a slide from its previous mark up in the high 30s, low 40s. It is currently at 37,951 and change per coin. That's down a little over 2.3% from its previous mark. Interesting turn of events. Bitcoin was pretty stable, around 40,000 all weekend, give or take 1,000. But it's as you can see here on the graph, saw a pretty sharp drop today after peaking at 39,635 this morning from a previous drop. Interesting. All right, so let us get to the Cuomo story. Got it right here on the Daily Wire. Oh, hang on a second. I got to log in. Let me turn off the screen for a second. I don't know why I had to log in again. Hang on, and there we go. There we go. All right. So Cuomo got knocked off the front page. So got here, Olympic Committee rewriting rules on transgender athletes after Laurel Hubbard becomes first trans competitor. Interesting. Let's see. The IOC says current regulations are outdated. Let's see. Two scientists consulting with the IOC say the 10 nanomole per liter threshold of testosterone is too high and should be cut in half. Experts also say the standard should be different depending on the sport the trans competitor is playing. The IOC has no plans to back off transgender athlete participating in Olympic events. In July, IOC Medical and Science Director Richard Budgett claimed that, quote, everyone agrees that trans women are women. No, that is not true. That is decidedly not true. By the way, I think some of you may know, Laurel Hubbard did not get out of the initial qualifying rounds in their sport. They failed 2 out of the 3 lifts, and one of them was not very good at all. So did not even come close to getting into the medal competition. And I read one article today, actually, where someone said that they are actually sad that Laurel Hubbard did not dominate, because that would have made the perfect case for how we need to keep men out of women's sports. When in fact, this showed that top-line women can compete and beat trans men, which is the exact opposite of the message we want to send. So it was a very interesting comment. Okay, this is good. Cuomo's office unveils $125 million student debt cancellation plan. How interesting. How interesting. This was a tweet from July 28th. Proud to announce that City University, New York will forgive up to $125 million in unpaid debt for at least 50,000 students, one of the largest student debt forgiveness plans of its kind. Students were among those most impacted by COVID. This plan provides much needed relief. And of course, the SUNY, as they call it in New York, the SUNY program, City University, New York, that is a statewide college system. There are SUNYs all over the state. But let's see. The announcement explains eligible students who were enrolled at the university from March 13, 2020, the date the virus was declared a national emergency, through the spring 2021 semester, and accrued tuition and fee balances during that time will have those unpaid debts to the university wiped clean. This action covers the spring, summer, and fall 2020 semesters and the spring 2021 semester, including students who have graduated. The plan is funded through federal dollars allocated to the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund through the American Rescue Plan passed in March, also known as the Porculus Plan, and the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act passed in December. Okay. Yeah. How interesting. How interesting in the timing. So let's find the story about Cuomo's getting jacked up by Letitia James. Here we go. I'm not quoting my sources, by the way. David Wire. This is by Emily Zanotti from earlier today. Let's see. Get to the point here. Letitia James, New York AG report found that, quote, Cuomo harassed multiple women, many of whom were young women, by engaging in unwanted groping, kisses, hugging, and by making inappropriate comments. The behavior showed a pattern, the investigators said, and they, quote, found all 11 women who came forward to be credible. The investigators said, quote, there was corroboration to various degrees. Okay, what else have we got here? Quote, The direct contact with intimate body parts, including the touching of executive assistant one's breast, the grabbing and touching of the butts of various women, unquestionably amounted to sexual harassment, the Attorney General's report noted. A state trooper assigned to Cuomo's detail described being asked by the governor to help him find a new girlfriend who, quote, can handle pain. The trooper also reported that Cuomo touched her inappropriately. Also, the culture, quote, the complainants also described how the culture within the executive chamber, rife with fear and intimidation and accompanied by a consistent overlooking of inappropriate flirtations and other sexually suggestive and gender-based comments by the governor, enabled the above-described instances of harassment to occur and created a hostile work environment overall. Close quote. In some cases, staff sought to write off Cuomo's behavior using the same excuse the governor himself used in his statement on Tuesday, that his behavior is, quote, cultural, and that he is, quote, old-fashioned. Yeah, so's the KKK. And I don't hear you guys making excuses for them. All right, so there was one other Cuomo story, and we'll move on to another outlet. Daily Wire by Ash Show from today. Including in H.E. James' report is a section detailing how one of Cuomo's top advisors, Rich Azzopardi, sent confidential personnel information about one of Cuomo's accusers to multiple media outlets. Under the headline, quote, the release of confidential files relating to Ms. Lindsay Boylan, quote, unquote, the AG's office explained how shortly after Boylan publicly accused Cuomo of sexual harassment in a tweet, one of Cuomo's top aides requested Boylan's, quote, full file, unquote. That aide, Melissa DeRosa, is the same aide who admitted to withholding New York's nursing home death total from COVID-19. DeRosa shared Boylan's December 2020 tweets with Alfonso David, former counsel to Cuomo, and Linda Lacewell, the superintendent of New York's Department of Financial Services. DeRosa at the time texted David asking to see Boylan's, quote, full file, according to the AG report. David, who at the time was president of the Human Rights Campaign, told DeRosa that another staffer should be able to provide the file for Boylan's time in the governor's office. On December 11th, 2020, just 2 days after Boylan's first tweet about Cuomo, David sent Azzopardi, quote, files relating to his investigation into and counseling of Ms. Boylan shortly before her departure from the executive chamber that she had retained and taken with him when he left the executive chamber, close quote. The report refers to these files as the, quote, confidential files, unquote, which included a September 2018 memorandum to Mr. David regarding confidential personnel matter, a September 26, 2018 memorandum to Mr. David labeled Draft Privileged and Confidential Attorney-Client Privilege Communication Intra-Agency Communication Memo to File, and finally, a September 30, 2018 email from Mr. David labeled Privileged and Confidential Attorney-Client Communication Attorney Work Product. Hours after Boylan again tweeted on December 13th about Cuomo's alleged sexual harassment, Azzopardi sent the confidential files obtained from David to David Caruso at the AP, Dana Rubenstein at the New York Times, Ed McKinley of the Times-Union, and Bernadette Hogan of the New York Post. In addition to the confidential files, the reporters were sent a statement from Cuomo Press Secretary Caitlin Girard saying, quote, there is simply no truth to these claims, close quote. Azzopardi also sent the files to, quote, former executive chamber staff and other staff members. DeRosa and Azzopardi, along with former Cuomo Communications Director Richard Bomberger and Danny Lever, or is it Lever, I'm not sure, quote, coordinated with some of the reporters who received the documents to let them know that the executive chamber would be sending them, close quote, according to the AG's report. On December 14, 2020, Azzopardi sent the confidential documents to more reporters, including Zach Burdick at The Hill, Marcia Kramer at CBS, and Zach Fink at New York One News. The following day, either DeRosa or Azzopardi director Hmm. Or another staffer, there's a bit mix up in the way that's written, either DeRosa or as a party or another staffer, John Blasto, sent the confidential files to Mike Gartland at the New York Daily News. Wow. Wow, wow, and wow. And we're still waiting for the nursing home uh, death report. This was the layup, the sexual harassment stuff. That was the layup. To inquire comments on the Babylon Bee story. Whoa, garlic breath. Yeah, definitely. Definitely garlic. True story, true story. I've told this before, but it bears repeating. There's a restaurant in Illinois, not too far from us, called Bob Chin's. And it is a steak place, mainly. But of course, when I went there, I ordered the seafood because I'm an idiot. But they're most known for their garlic rolls. And it's not just your run-of-the-mill garlic roll. It is a fresh baked roll, smothered in garlic butter, topped with fresh ground garlic, and then sitting in a pool of garlic butter. And they are incredible. It is so hard to not just devour them. My wife used to go there with her work every so often. Back when corporations would take people out to dinner, and one night she came home, and she absolutely reeked of garlic. It was pouring off of her. It was literally coming out of her body, and I made her sleep in the other room. I'm like, no, 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 no. It was the first night we'd ever slept apart when we'd been living in the same place, but it had to happen. It had to happen. And I told her next time, to avoid a repeat of the breakup, just bring me some of those rolls so we can, fight fire with fire. Because if we're both reeking of garlic, then it doesn't matter. And so that was the plan from there on out. All right, moving right along. Let's get to my Epoch Times Premium subscription here. See what we have here. Oh, we have a COVID treatment here. Let's see. This is from today, from the Epoch Times by Tom Ozimek. And it says here, FDA authorizes antibody cocktail as COVID-19 prevention treatment. The FDA on Friday announced that it had revised its emergency use authorization for Regen-CoV, a treatment consisting of jointly administered casirivimab and imdevimab. I hate when they end in mab. It's so hard to pronounce. Expanding its use just beyond the treatment of patients who test positive for the virus. While the product remains authorized for treating confirmed cases for patients over age 12 who are at high risk of severe illness, the agency said the drug combo can now be given to high-risk groups as a measure after exposure to prevent progression of the disease. The antibody treatment is only authorized for use in people who have been exposed to the Chinese Communist Party virus, not as a pre-exposure preventative. The agency added that Regen-CoV should only be used as a post-exposure prophylaxis by people who are not fully vaccinated or whose immune systems are unlikely to mount an adequate response to the virus, like those who take immunosuppressive medications or who are otherwise immunocompromised. According to the FDA, prophylaxis with Regen-CoV is not a substitute for vaccination against COVID-19. Okay, there was a phase 3 clinical trial that found an 81% reduction in confirmed symptomatic cases in people testing negative at the start of the study and who had household contact with people who were infected. Okay. According to a researcher and one of the investigators behind the study, Regen-CoV the Regen-CoV drug cocktail works by overwhelming the infection while it is still in its early stages. Quote, "It's a race between your ability to make an antibody to protect your lungs and the rest of your body and the virus. And if you're likely to lose the race, you're the person for whom these antibody drugs are appropriate." Interesting. Very interesting. course, there are a few other treatments out there that I can't talk about without getting banned from YouTube, but I'm sure we all know what they are. Let's see. Headline: Chinese paramilitary trained Cuban security forces responsible for suppressing peaceful protesters. Well, we all knew that. No surprise there. Appeals court upholds Indiana University's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. That was, let's see, Federal Appeals Court. Which one? The one out of Chicago. Is that I think that's the 7th Circuit, isn't it? The Chicago-based appeals court upheld an Indiana District Court judge's ruling that found the university was acting reasonably, quote, in pursuing public health and safety for its campus communities. Both courts rejected a request by 8 students who sued the school in June, claiming the inoculation requirement would violate their constitutional rights by forcing them to receive unwanted medical treatment. The policy makes vaccination a condition of attending, and students who don't want to get vaccinated can also seek, quote, ample educational opportunities, unquote, elsewhere, according to the appeals court ruling. It's too late, you idiot. Applications are over. You can't just move to another school this late in the year. It's impossible. That's ridiculous. The legal aspects of whether or not a private institution can make you take a drug, because again, as like we talked about the other day, I've heard from a number of people, there is no law on the books that prevents a private institution from requiring a particular medical treatment for a condition of employment or attendance. There's no law. Maybe there should be, but there isn't. But how can you use as justification that you could seek ample educational opportunities elsewhere when it is so late in the summer that there's no way you could get into another school until next year? Wow. I thought judges went to college. The 8 students' lawsuit claims that the school's vaccine mandate violates the liberty protected by the 14th Amendment, including rights of personal autonomy and bodily integrity and the right to reject medical treatment. James Bopp, a lawyer for the plaintiffs, said he would ask for SCOTUS to review the rulings, which legal experts say are the first from federal courts regarding college immunization mandates. Similar lawsuits against student vaccine requirements at the University of Connecticut and California State University system are awaiting action. The university's website states that approved exemptions will be extremely limited to a very narrow set of criteria, including religious medical exemptions with documentation or medical deferrals and an online program exemption. Wow. Wow. Oh yeah, here's something that I heard about yesterday. I'm glad it's still up. Janet Yellen, our Treasury Secretary, the Treasury and the Fed are in deep doo-doo because Congress did not extend the debt ceiling the other day. And when you don't extend the debt ceiling, that means the Fed can't keep printing money to buy government bonds to shore up the bond market and to flood the economy with money. If you have to stop selling that money as you borrow the money from selling the money to borrow the money, which is exactly how it works, then you have to start selling stuff to make up the difference. So basically, you have to start carving pieces of federal assets off of the haunch to support your measures. So what have we got here? Yellen detailed a part of this is also by Tom Ozimek. Yellen detailed the emergency maneuvers, chiefly pausing investments in certain government employee pension funds, in an August 2nd letter to congressional leaders that came as a 2-year suspension of the federal debt ceiling expired. The reimposed borrowing limit caps the federal debt at the current level of around $28.5 trillion, restricting the government's ability to raise additional funds by selling government securities. Remember, the government was buying those securities, about $180 million a day. Okay, continuing, the reinstated ceiling has forced Yellen, like her predecessors in prior administrations, to resort to emergency measures to allow the Treasury to keep meeting federal debt obligations. Yellen said in the letter she was suspending investments in the Civil Service Retirement and Disability Fund and the Postal Service Retiree Health Benefits Fund that are not immediately required to pay beneficiaries. She also said the extraordinary measures would involve suspending daily reinvestments in the Federal Retirement G Fund, with all the emergency measures going into effect Monday. Federal retirees and employees will not be impacted by the moves, and once the debt ceiling is increased or suspended, all the affected funds will be made whole. The CBO has estimated that the emergency measures could claw back more than $340 billion in borrowing capacity under the newly reimposed debt cap, with the bulk, nearly $300 billion, from suspending G-Fund investment. CBO said these actions, combined with the Treasury's current cash balance of about $450 billion, would allow the government to avoid a payment default into October or November as a partisan fight unfolds over a new suspension or increase in the debt cap. A standoff on raising the debt ceiling in 2011 resulted in the first downgrade on a portion of the federal government's AAA bond rating by ratings company Standard & Poor's. Yeah, now Dog says you can same day or late register at most community colleges. That is exactly true, Dog. Exactly true. But if you've been accepted into Indiana University, I don't think you're thinking that you would be satisfied with backing off and going to, as we called it back where I went to school, when I went to community college, Kankakee Circle Driveway. As opposed to community college, we called it Kankakee Circle Driveway because the main claim to fame was a brand new circular driveway that they put in with a new landscaping package. They didn't upgrade the buildings at all, but they did put in this nice circle driveway. It's Illinois. What are you going to do? But yeah, I went to community college for a year while I was recuperating from my hip surgeries, and got some prereqs out of the way, and took a couple other classes. But all right. Let's move on to the Daily Caller. Let's see here. Oh yeah. This happened. We are just killing it in the Olympics, folks. Gwen Berry didn't medal. As we all remember, Gwen Berry, the American hammer thrower, who decided that she's more important than America, who brought a T-shirt to her podium appearance at the U.S. Olympic trials, where she placed third in the hammer throw, and held up a T-shirt, pre-made, obviously, that said, I believe it was, shoot, what was it? Oh, I can't even remember now. Something athlete. Something like a protesting athlete, something like that. But Barry finished 11th out of 12 in the Olympics today. So let's hear it for Gwen Berry, who has the weirdest lipstick of any American I've ever seen. Just saying. Now, contrast that with Tamira Mensah Stock. Tamira won gold in wrestling, and let's quote her. Of course, I surprise myself. It's by the grace of God I'm even able to move my feet. Like, I just leave it in his hands and I pray that all the practice that the hell that my frickin' coaches put me through pays off. And every single time it does, and I get better and better, and it's so weird that there's no cap to the limit that I can do, and I'm excited to see what I can do next. You can see here she's wearing, the reporter noted the American flag the athlete had draped around her shoulders and said it looked good there. He then asked the Olympic gold medal winner how it felt to be able to represent her country in the games. Mensah just hugged the flag and said she loved living in the USA and said it felt, quote, amazing. Quote, it feels amazing. I love representing the U.S. I freaking love living there. I love it, and I'm so happy I get to represent the USA. And she made a heart with her hand when she said that. I got tears in my eyes, folks. I got tears in my eyes. Right at the end of the presser, she promised not to cry when she hit the podium to receive her gold medal. Tamira becomes the first black woman to win a gold medal in Olympic wrestling for USA and only the second American woman overall. Wow, well, God bless you, girl. God bless you. Giving it to God and giving it to America. I couldn't be more proud. By the way, the women's Olympic soccer team lost to Canada. 1-0 on a penalty kick. First time they'd lost to Canada in 19 years. So, yeah. Get woke, go broke. Seems like everyone in the Olympics who was bucking societal norms massively failed. Massively failed. All right, we've got an update on Cuomo here. This is from the Daily Caller News Foundation by Mary Margaret Olahan. And quoting Cuomo, I never touched anyone inappropriately. Cuomo refuses to resign, denies investigation findings. Well, there's a surprise. Quoting the governor, I want you to know directly from me, I never touched anyone inappropriately. I am 63 years old. I have lived my entire adult life in public. You field. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. That is not just who I am, and that is not who I have ever been. He continued, I do kiss people on the forehead. I do kiss people on the cheek. I do embrace people, men and women. I do on occasion say, ciao, bella. On occasion, I do slip and say sweetheart or darling. Dude, that's not what the report said at all. You are not being rung up for saying ciao bella and saying sweetheart or darling. The governor said he now understands that there are, quote, generational or cultural perspectives, close quote, that he did not understand, and apologized if any of his well-intentioned actions made anyone uncomfortable. Quoting Ray, in another Olympic update, last week in Olympic news, Mayor Lightfoot wins silver in comical, scary makeup event, though later states, quote, I wasn't even participating. Very good. And, of course, Dog points out, Lightfoot wins most injured, least killed in the typical Chicago weekend, although numbers are climbing. That is correct, Dog. That is correct. All right. Let's see. 22-year-old airline passenger gets duct tape to seat after punching flight attendants. Folks, duct tape is a thing on airlines. It is a thing, and it works. It works. It really, really works. So I'll just leave that story right where it lays. Let's see. A lot of Cuomo news here. See. Here we go. This is by Anders Hagstrom from the Daily Caller. Biden admin to announce new restrictions on evictions after Democrats protest. And this just came out. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will impose new restrictions on housing evictions following days of protest from House Democrats calling for Biden to extend the national moratorium. According to the Washington Post, the Post attributes the report to 3 anonymous people, quote, aware of the matter. Well, we all know how trustworthy anonymous sources are with the Washington Post, but let's continue anyway and entertain the fact that it may actually be true. Let's see, specifics have not been released. While the new restrictions would not amount to an outright extension of the eviction moratorium, it may be enough to satisfy House Democrats. Here's a tweet from Heather Cagle. Biden called Pelosi this afternoon to inform her of a decision to expand eviction moratorium in certain areas. Biden call came after Pelosi made clear on caucus call with Yellen that admin, not the House, should act to fix this. Nancy, the House passes the laws, you idiot. We're not supposed to run this country by executive decree. God, not even Congress wants to do their job. It's bad enough the teachers are still trying to get out of going back to the classroom, but not even Nancy Pelosi is more concerned about trying to pass a bill that is completely unconstitutional and takes all states' rights away from running their own elections. But she can't be bothered to get a bill passed to extend an eviction moratorium, which the SCOTUS ruled that the CDC did not have authority to extend. It's a pretty easy argument that the CDC did not have the authority to do it in the first place, but the vote that put that SCOTUS decision over the top was courtesy of none other than Brett Kavanaugh. But he did say that he saw that as an extraordinary circumstance, and he would not allow it to be extended. So that's where all that goes. White House Press Secretary you-know-who argued today that state governments should take up the mantle and enact eviction moratoriums themselves, given that the relevant funding is still available. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell echoed the argument as well, saying he doesn't believe action is necessary on the federal level. All right. Well. AG report confirms Chris Cuomo advised his brother on sexual misconduct allegations. Chris Cuomo had previously admitted to participating in calls advising his brother on how to handle the allegations. The CNN host was on a call with top advisors and told his brother to express remorse about the allegations, but told him not to resign. The AG report found that Chris Cuomo and other advisors, quote, counseled the governor to express contrition, unquote, when the allegations surfaced. The AG report also included an email in which Chris Cuomo appeared to draft a statement for his brother responding to the allegations. Wow. The governor gave a speech that same day that the email was sent that was almost identical to the draft his brother wrote for him. Wow. I guess it's true. Chris Cuomo is the smarter brother. That proves it. If Chris Cuomo can draft a statement that Andrew copies verbatim to as a public announcement, then obviously Chris Cuomo is smarter than Andrew Cuomo. They're both pieces of you-know-what, but I guess that's that. All right, let's move on to the post-millennial. Oh yeah, this is a great story. This is some drone footage of about 1,000 people being held by Custom and Border Patrol under the Anzalduas, I can never pronounce that, Anzalduas Bridge in Mission, Texas, which is in the Rio Grande Valley. So look at this. It's 100 plus degrees out in South Texas right now. There may be shade, but looks like there's a bit of a breeze blowing. They're lucky in that regard. I can see some trees swaying. Or is that... Actually, that might be... it might be distortion. I'm not sure. Wow. Someone needs to clean off the camera on their drone. It's got fingerprints all over it. That's from Bill Malugan, who was Fox reporter. He's been doing a lot of great reporting on the border as of late. Among those who reacted to the video was GOP New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, calling the event, quote, an absolute catastrophe from Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and House and Senate Democrats. Wow. I have no idea who that is. Couldn't even pronounce that name if I had to. All right, so we've got the Pentagon shooting there. All right. During a White House press conference on Tuesday, Press Secretary You-Know-Who addressed numerous questions regarding Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' handling of rising COVID cases in his state. In response to hitting a new record for hospitalizations in the state, one reporter asked Psaki for a response about his approach to handling the pandemic and how he has issued executive orders preventing local authorities from issuing mask mandates, as well as how he chalked up the spike to being, quote, seasonal. And Psaki said, well, the data just doesn't back that up. Psaki went on to state that 7 states have issued similar orders as Florida in banning mask mandates across the state as well as in schools, with Texas going as far as fining teachers and professors that ask about the vaccination status of a student and have unvaccinated students wear a mask. Psaki said, and I think the fundamental question we have is, what are we doing here? Adding, the president's stance is, we are all in this together. Quote, if you aren't going to help, if you aren't going to abide by public health guidance, then get out of the way and let people do the right thing to lead in their communities, whether they are teachers, university leaders, private sector leaders, or others who are trying to save lives. Jen, name one state where mask mandates not only made a difference, but even if they didn't make a difference, name one state that had massive mask mandates, statewide, indoors, outdoors. Name one of those states that didn't actually have more infections than other states. Because you can't. Because the states with the heaviest mask mandates saw the highest rates of transmission. Period. End of story. The data is right there in front of you. And big deal that Florida has a record number admitted to hospitals. Are the hospitals being overwhelmed? Where's that context? Where's that context? Because no, they're not. I've yet to see one story coming out of anyone saying that Florida's hospitals are even close to being overwhelmed. They never were to begin with, and they aren't now. It's not positives, it's not hospitalizations, it's deaths. And deaths are hardly at any higher of a rate now than they were a month ago. So shut up, Jen. Shut up. All right. Oh, here's a story by John Solomon from justthenews.com. Hillary Clinton's old campaign law firm uses China excuse to avoid Carter Page lawsuit. This ought to be good. Perkins Coie claim of stateless entity wins at federal appeals court level. Is SCOTUS next? The Perkins Coie law firm that helped Hillary's campaign fund the now debunked Steele dossier is using a China excuse to avoid being sued for defamation by former Trump advisor Carter Page, and so far it is working. Quote, 3 Perkins Coie partners are stateless U.S. citizens domiciled in China, the lawyers representing the firm and the DNC argued in an appellate brief earlier this year. Quote, that statelessness is imputed to Perkins Coie and forecloses the existence of complete diversity of citizenship in this case. In a little notice ruling in late June, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago, I was right, it is the 7th Circuit, accepted the D.C.-based firm's claim that it was a stateless entity that can't be sued in federal court. Quoting the court, in response to our concerns regarding subject matter jurisdiction, Perkins Coie submitted affidavits from 3 individual partners who are U.S. citizens domiciled in China, Juan Luis Liu, Scott Palmer, and James Ann Zimmerman, who adhere to this same reasoning and conclude that Perkins Coie, a named defendant, takes on the stateless statute of its individual partners, Liu, Palmer, and Zimmerman. This attribution of statelessness destroys complete diversity and deprived the district court of the power to hear this case. The appellate judges acknowledged the legal theory of federal court immunity for stateless entities was novel and based on laws created before the rise of multinational corporations, and it may be ripe for review by SCOTUS. Keep in mind, quoting the court, keep in mind that when Congress enacted the Judiciary Act of 1789 and in the subsequent decades when the Supreme Court decided many of its significant diversity jurisdiction cases, most of today's business forms did not exist. And Carter said that he is going to continue to fight, I'm sure. Quoting Carter Page, reminiscent of the rigorous years of work by leaders on Capitol Hill and DOJ's Inspector General who originally uncovered the wrongdoing behind the Steele dossier, this has remained a long road toward resolving perhaps the worst election interference and intelligence scandals in U.S. history. Quoting further, I greatly appreciate this latest rigorous analysis by one of the most respected federal appellate courts in America as they cogently highlighted these serious, unresolved questions of law. I will continue doing everything in my power to eventually achieve justice in this important matter. Well, God bless you, Carter. Keep fighting, dude. Keep fighting. Let's see. Oh, yeah. This caught my eye earlier and did my heart a little bit of good. Not saying it's going to happen, but remember, for those of you who weren't here the other day. Thank you to Twin Crier, by the way. I missed your chat in Trovo. Twin Crier points out both Cuomos are scumbags. Couldn't be more correct. Couldn't be more correct. But thanks to Michael Scriven in the YouTube chat for the kind words. But you guys may know that last week I called my congressional rep's office, Brian Stile, talked to one of his folks. And I told them that I wanted articles of impeachment filed early and often against Biden and Harris and Mayorkas and possibly, now that I think about it, Becerra should be added to that as well, the head of HHS. But they should all be on the impeachment hook right now and dangling from it from a great height because they have completely turned the border into a humanitarian disaster. It has stopped being a crisis 2 months ago, and then the news came out yesterday of the preliminary numbers from Customs and Border Patrol about the number of crossings that we had last month, and preliminary figures are over 200,000, which is a record. There was nearly a record number of family units, just short of the record set back in 2019 before Trump shut down the border, and some 9,000 UACs, unaccompanied children, crossed in July. So right now, CBP and HHS have between them probably around 15,000 12 to 15,000 UACs in custody, and there's nowhere to put them. There are only so many tents you can put up on old military bases, and still have people to cover them, even if you are using a contractor that is known for disaster recovery as opposed to watching children. And of course, I covered in very, very great detail by reading verbatim the whistleblowers filing from last week regarding conditions at Fort Bliss that both of them saw, and observations from other people with whom they spoke at Fort Bliss, and the complete disaster, humanitarian disaster Fort Bliss is. And again, we're talking children, folks. We're talking children who are trying to commit suicide, but they don't have the means to do it. Children who are trying to walk away from the camp that is basically in the middle of the southwest Texas desert. And they're so psychologically damaged by the camp conditions, they're walking to sure death just to get away from it. And so I called my Congress critter and said, you got to start impeaching these people. And I said, I know that we don't have the House, and I know we don't have the Senate, but I don't care. I want you to do this, and I want you to keep doing it. And even CNN will have to cover this. And I didn't hear back. And so I was ready to call today, but again, since I didn't sleep last night, I am basically a worthless dish rag right now. It's only adrenaline that's keeping me afloat right now. So I didn't have the wherewithal to call them today. But then I heard about Texas Republican Representative Chip Roy, who answered a tweet from Jesse Kelly. And Jesse Kelly tweeted, "What Joe Biden is doing at our border is impeachable. It's more impeachable than Watergate. This is an attack on the sovereignty of America, and it's coming from the Oval Office. Republicans should move to impeach after 2022. Now, I, of course, disagree. I think they should do it right now. But anyway, Chip Roy tagged in with co-sponsor, hashtag impeach Biden, hashtag impeach Mayorkas. Now, Jesse Kelly's a political commentator. He's not a lawmaker, but it's nice to see somebody else is thinking this out loud. Quoting Chip Roy's tweet further, total encounters for July, 205,029. And again, these are preliminary, but the preliminary numbers are usually really close to the actual. Total known gotaways, 37,400. And again, those are known gotaways. Those are people who tripped a sensor, caught an image of them on a remote camera, or you find a sign of someone in the desert, some clothing left behind, something like that. And that's just, those are the known gotaways. And I understand that actual gotaways can be twice as many as known without stretching it hard at all. Let's see. Chip Roy further tweeted, 1.3 million for fiscal year 21 so far, largest monthly encounter number since 2000. Remember, these numbers haven't been kept before 2001. That was when DHS was created, and that's when they started counting border encounters. So these are, whenever you see the media report this is the highest number in 20 years, no, it's the highest number ever. They're making it sound like it's happened before by using that phrase, and it's not true. It hasn't happened before. These are record numbers month after month after month. And remember, we were told by the diaper wearer in chief himself, 46 Asterisk, back in February, that this was a seasonal surge, which was a lie. We all know that the big surges come in the spring and early summer, not in the winter. So he lied right there. And then he and Mayorkas keep lying that the border is closed, when of course we know the exact opposite. I covered the story last week about the group of illegals huddled around each other in a Whataburger in La Jolla, Texas, down there on the border, coughing and sneezing, and throwing COVID all over the place. And it turned out they were housed in a local hotel put up there by Catholic Charities. I'm ashamed to say Catholic Charities, being a Catholic myself. And they had not told anyone with the city, anyone with the Department of Health, that they had positive COVID people in the hotel. And it was basically all COVID positive, the whole place. And then they went into town and spread it. So the health department declared basically a public emergency because of it. And Catholic Charities will not release the number of people they have up in this hotel and other hotels across Texas. They refuse to give out those numbers. Oh, this is interesting. Medical examiner requested cremation of Babbitt's body 2 days after Capitol breach. Of course, we're speaking of Ashley Babbitt, the only gunshot fatality on January 6th. Okay, it's an article from justthenews.com by Joseph Weber from just a little while ago. The Washington, D.C. offices of the chief medical examiner submitted a request to cremate January 6th Capitol protester Ashley Babbitt 2 days after gaining custody of the body, according to documents obtained and released Tuesday by conservative watchdog Judicial Watch. Babbitt, an Air Force veteran and San Diego native, was fatally shot by a U.S. Capitol police officer as she attempted to climb through a broken window of a door to the Speaker's lobby, a room off House chambers. Among these 1,160 pages of documents obtained by Judicial Watch is a January 8 application to cremate Babbitt's body that is labeled, quote, completed successfully, unquote. However, neither Judicial Watch nor the medical examiner's office could confirm Tuesday whether the entry meant the application or the cremation was successful. The Justice Department said in April that it would not pursue charges against the unnamed officer accused of fatally shooting the 35-year-old Babbitt because there was insufficient evidence to support a criminal prosecution. Of course, we're supposed to take their word for that. The decision came about a week after the medical examiner's office said Babbitt died of a gunshot wound to her shoulder and that her death had been ruled a homicide because it was the result of intentional harm of one person by another. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton is quoted, "The continued secrecy and delayed release of information about the shooting death of Ashley Babbitt are suspicious and smacks of politics. That Americans still have no information about who killed her or any police report about her death is a scandal of epic proportions." Close quote. Documents obtained by Judicial Watch also appear to show that an email of Babbitt's fingerprints between a Metropolitan Police Department officer and a District of Columbia government official resulted in multiple Microsoft, quote, undeliverable messages being returned written in what appear to be Chinese characters. Wait, what? All right, here's the... Okay, this is Judicial Watch versus District of Columbia, Babbitt, July 2020 records. Let me see if I can blow this up. All right, this is obtained via FOIA by Judicial Watch from Microsoft Outlook to James E. Koroma, D.C. Government. Subject undeliverable, forward OCME 21-00106, date January 6, 2021. Attachment, forward OCME, same. And this is, yeah, these are Chinese characters. What the hell? What in the absolute hell? I do not know what to make of that. I'll leave it up to people smarter than I am to figure out what the heck that's all about. All right, let's see here. Oh, here we go. Here's another whistleblower. Um, again, justthenews.com. Oh, here we go. Here's a breaking story. Let me get to that right now. I forgot to mention this, by the way. You remember back in March when the Letitia James investigation into Cuomo began, Biden said in an interview, I believe it was with ABC, that Cuomo should resign if he is found guilty of sexual harassment, etc. And got this right here. This just came out. Biden calls on Andrew Cuomo to resign. Yeah, let's see here. Biden said in a press conference he would not say whether he believed Cuomo should be impeached and removed from office, but that he believed the state legislature was pursuing impeachment and that Cuomo should resign. Wow. Maybe the Babylon Bee wasn't right. Biden actually stuck by his guns once. Interesting. All right. So, what have we got here? This is by John Solomon again, justthenews.com. Feds inventing, quote, absurd excuses like obesity to release illegals, whistleblower tells Congress. GOP lawmakers say Biden administration is, quote, ignoring COVID-19 protocols, unquote, at the southern border, and illegal aliens are literally eating themselves to obesity in order to be released. All right, let's see here. Representatives Jim Jordan of Ohio, Tom McClintock, I love that name, Tom McClintock of California, and Matt Rosendale of Montana allege in a letter sent to Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas that the whistleblower described an effort at the southern border to circumvent pandemic rules and risk the spread of COVID-19. The whistleblower has also said the administration is inventing absurd reasons like obesity to release to the interior illegal immigrants who should otherwise be deported. Quoting the letter, we have learned recently from a frontline whistleblower that the Department of Homeland Security is ignoring COVID-19 protocols to facilitate the surge of illegal aliens into the country. Quote, the whistleblower explained that numerous aliens with standing prior orders of removal are being released from Customs and Border Protection custody in direct violation of 8 U.S.C. 1231A5, the federal law that requires an alien's final order of removal to be reinstated. The letter added, again quoting, about 25% of illegal aliens to ICE should be referred to ICE for detention. Hang on, this is not written properly. There we go. About 25% of illegal aliens referred to ICE for detention, and that most have been released for absurd reasons, including high body mass index. The whistleblower said that illegal aliens are literally eating themselves to obesity in order to be released. I've got a copy of the whistleblower right here. Let me open that up. GOP lawmakers asked Mayorkas to provide them answers to several questions, including the total numbers of positive COVID-19 cases of aliens in the custody of CBP since January 20th, broken down by month, positive cases of aliens in the custody of ICE since January 20th, broken down by month, and positive cases of aliens encountered by CBP on the southern border and who tested positive after being turned over to an NGO since January 20. All right, let's look at this. Let's look at this letter. The whistleblower explained that CBP is turning over only about 25% of illegal aliens to ICE for detention and that most have been released for absurd reasons, including high body mass index. One of the most concerning issues shared by the whistleblower is DHS's complete abdication of responsibility and hypocrisy surrounding COVID-19. The whistleblower shared that when ICE cannot accept the aliens for detention, the aliens are bused to an NGO that helps the aliens on their way into the interior of the country. The whistleblower explained that the NGO tests each alien for COVID when they arrive, and that many aliens have been testing positive. Although the whistleblower could not be sure whether the NGOs properly quarantined the COVID positive aliens, the whistleblower believed that the sheer volume of illegal aliens and the tight timeline for resettlement made proper quarantining impossible. And finally, at a time when the Biden-Harris administration is spreading confusion and fear about COVID-19, DHS has left our southern border wide open for hundreds of thousands of aliens who are unvaccinated and potentially Chinese Communist Party virus positive. To allow the committee to understand how the administration is enforcing public health and safety along the border, and then please provide what I just read to you. Please provide this information as soon as possible, but no later than Monday, August 16th. In addition, it is our obligation to remind you of the protections in federal law for whistleblowers who make protected disclosures to Congress, especially in light of the DHS Office of Inspector General report from 2015 about how an, quote, unusual, unquote, number of whistleblowers requested anonymity during its investigation of your EB5 misconduct. We will not tolerate any attempted retaliation against this whistleblower. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Jim Jordan, Tom McClintock, and Matthew Rosendale. All right, so that's big news. It gets curiouser and curiouser, folks. All right. Former ATF colleagues write letter opposing Biden director nominee, wrong man for the job. This is a piece from today by Stephen Gutowski at thereload.com, my favorite two-way site. 7 former agents, each with 25 or more years of experience at the ATF, wrote a letter to Senate Judiciary Committee leaders on Tuesday, urging them to vote against David Chipman. In a copy of the letter obtained by The Reload, the agents criticized Chipman's turn from ATF agent to paid gun control activist. They argued he did not have the experience or temperament to lead the agency, and his appointment would degrade ATF's ability to do its job. Quote, David's strong personal beliefs on firearms issues will create serious and long-lasting problems for the Bureau and effective execution of its law enforcement mission. We relied on effective partnerships with industry, stakeholders, and other law enforcement agencies to execute our missions. Unfortunately, if David were confirmed, ATF partners would see someone who was coming to the agency with his top priority being to implement a divisive gun control agenda. Quoting the letter further, having been at the Bureau at the same time as Mr. Chipman and having followed his career after he left the Bureau, we are very familiar with his leadership style and his approach to the agency. While an agent, David did not exhibit the collaborative and respectful type of leadership required of an agency director that must manage a diverse workforce with challenging issues. While we can say without hesitation that David is very smart, we can also say without hesitation that he was very often not a team player and had a troubling tendency to think he was always right. Guilty as charged. The former agents also argued that Chipman's record shows he does not have the experience to run the agency. Quote, while in the Bureau, he never progressed to the senior executive service or to senior leadership within the agency. Putting David in charge of ATF would be like asking a small business owner to lead a Fortune 500 company. Even though he was an ATF agent, David would be the least qualified individual to lead the agency in its history. Finally, quoting, ATF needs a director whose personal beliefs about gun ownership would not be a distraction from the critically important work of the men and women of the ATF. A nominee with a proven track record of leadership, fairness, and diplomacy is not only needed for the director's position, it is necessary to ensure that ATF can execute its mission. David Chipman is not that nominee. The letter was signed by retired ATF agents Tim Bunds, Gregory Alvarez, Mike Meadows, Wadeen Musgrave, Pamela Potacek, Judith M. Bender, and Larry Lucky. And gee, go figure, Dick Durbin and the White House did not respond when asked for comment. By the way, I've never covered it, but I've read this twice now in things about Chipman. Actually, I think I did maybe mention it the first time the story came out, but it's been repeated since then by other ATF agents. I'll remind you of it. Of course, there are tests, government tests that you take in order to progress up the GS ladder, the government service ladder. And certainly, if you want to move up to a management position from a line position, you have to take certain tests, show aptitude for management, things like that. And there were a group of ATF agents who took the test to become lead agents. And in this particular class, there was a high percentage of black ATF agents who qualified. And a number of people who worked with David Chipman at the Detroit ATF office at that time quoted him as saying, "That's not possible. They must have cheated." Direct quote. Several son. So that is a thing. That is on Chipman's record. And I'm not surprised at all because he seems to be right up Biden's alley. And it sounds exactly like something Biden would have said 20 years ago or 20 minutes ago. So I'm not surprised at all. All right, good folks. I'm going to have to cut it here. I'm out of juice. Let me give you a Babylon Bee bookend to end the day, and we'll be out of here. I will do Learning Curve on the way out, but I'm just going to do my sign off now. I'll be back hopefully tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern for the continued playthrough of Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. It seems like I have shaken out all the bugs that I created yesterday when I messed up one of my mods and totally trashed the files. That's why there wasn't a show yesterday. I was in the weeds trying to troubleshoot Skyrim, and I couldn't step away from it, because if I had, I would have lost the thread and it would have been broken from forever. I would have just had to have completely reinstalled it and lose all my saves. That's how bad it was. In fact, I didn't finish getting everything cleaned up until 11:30 my time last night, and I usually go to bed at 9 Central. That's one of the reasons I didn't sleep at all last night, because I was up so late. But I will be back tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, and pray for sleep, and I'll do whatever show I can tomorrow afternoon, just like today, at the very least. And here is, I think, the perfect article to end our day. This is from the Babylon Bees Celebs section. It's titled simply, "Hero, Obama holds super spreader event on climate change endangered property to show people what not to do." And here we have a picture, an overhead shot of the Obama's 31-acre estate on Martha's Vineyard, one of the most exclusive pieces of real estate in the world. It, of course, is the kind of house where the most oppressed black woman in America would live, that, of course, being Michelle Obama. Remember, she can't go to an ice cream store without having a white woman cut in front of her in line, be it an obvious case of racism. Thank God Michelle has a 31-acre estate on Martha's Vineyard to hide from all the white supremacists. But it seems that Michelle and Barack are going to be stepping it out coming up. By the way, this story bothers me because it turns out I'm older than Barack Obama by about 8 months. That really bothers me. Anyway, Dateline, Edgartown, Massachusetts. Is this guy great or what? According to sources in Martha's Vineyard, former President Obama is throwing a huge birthday bash with 700 guests at a seaside mansion that will likely be underwater due to climate change any minute now, all as a way to show the American people what not to do during a pandemic in a country affected by climate change. Quote, "As he always has, Barack Obama is showing the way by doing the exact opposite," said NBC anchor and global megastar Chuck Todd. Again quoting, "Once again, the chosen one has seen fit to bathe us in the warmth of his glory and light. We look to our great hope is capitalized, as the purest, most muscular, most cool example of all the things one should never do during a pandemic on a coastal town affected by sea level rise. Thank you, sir, from all of us, the American people. Close quote. Chuck Todd then jumped out the window to his death, having just found out he wasn't invited to Obama's birthday party. Insiders report that hundreds of high-profile elite guests, such as George Clooney, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Jeffrey Epstein, will be in attendance to get an intensive course on everything they should not be doing, after which they'll go spread the word of proper pandemic behavior to the regular people. The Coast Guard will be on watch all evening for deadly sea level rise and will simply keep out the advancing ocean by stacking up the bodies of COVID victims to form a seawall. Thanks, Obama. It ends. And there's the Babylon Bee, y'all. All right. Couldn't be a prouder subscriber. So thank everyone so much for being here. I hope this was at least decent. I appreciate everyone's patience and forbearance as always. And I will see you soon. So without further ado, you know what's coming next. Fry cry, flamin' turkey. There we go. Usually if it's grass, you can climb it. Wow. Oh, shoot! Dang it! Oh my God, in heaven, I got killed by a turkey!
I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. Hope you learned something. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. From the stormy seas, from the brightest day, from the darkest nights, from the sunny